What are your thoughts on Ozempic?
No, so I have conflicts of interest here because I'm involved in. I'm pretty balanced. My conflicts of interest are declared in every paper and they're on the government website because I am also the chair of the health care goals program for obesity, where we're trying to make the UK a better place for, more attractive for industry to do weight loss trials. So it's not just Ozempic, it's what is my thought about the medical profession's ability or the ability to help people regulate weight with medicines in a way that we were not able to do 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago, when I was doing medicine, what do we have in our stock and trade? Somebody was living with obesity. We had a drug called Orlistat, which basically stopped you absorbing fat, but gives you really smelly, people didn't like it. We had Weight Watchers and with commercial providers and who helped you lose weight, which were pretty damn good actually. But we're talking about 3 to 4, 5 or 6 kilograms weight loss, two units of BMI. But many of our patients were 30, 40, 50, 60 kilograms overweight. Not, and 2 to 3% of that is not going to be enough. It's just losing 5 or 6 kilograms as opposed to needing to lose 40, 50. Do you know what I mean?
It's quite minimal in the grand scheme of things.
And then what we were doing these trials, we were using these drugs called GLP-1 receptor agonists, which is what Ozempic is. Ozempic is basically a drug called semaglutide at 1 milligram, which we use for diabetes. At 2.4 milligrams is called Wegovy. It's the same drug, is semaglutide.
Okay.
Made by a company called Novo Nordisk. And then the other drug that's now licensed is tirzepatide, made by a company called Eli Lilly. But beyond that, there are trials on the go with multiple other companies, with multiple other drugs. So in about 5 years' time, we might have 6 or 7 drugs on the market. In 10 years' time, we may have 20 drugs on the market that broadly work in the same way. What these drugs do, and you and I make this chemical ourselves when we eat. It's one of the chemicals that goes from our gut, goes into the brain and tells us we're going to feel full. That's what it is. It's GLP-1. It's made from part of the cells of your gut. As you eat and you start, even as you start chewing, it starts to go into the brain. It's saying you're going to start feeling full soon, and then you can stop eating. And basically these drugs are just excess amounts of that so that you take it by injection. So it basically means that you'll feel full sooner because you've got this synthetic form of GLP-1 that's making you feel satiated, well, in a synthetic way so that you don't need to eat as much to get the normal signals.
Okay, and is there a possibility that could go too far?
Yes.
Because people, they almost just stop eating.
Yes.
And then instead of burning fat, they're burning fat and muscle.
Well, let me explain that. So we haven't got to that possibility up until more recently because when semaglutide or Ozempic first started, we were using it in low doses in diabetes, and the weight loss was only about 4 or 5 kilograms. But the fact that we were losing weight, the other thing these drugs do, the GLP-1, it basically makes your body make more insulin. That's how it keeps. That's how we designed it. We thought, GLP-1 is called an incretin. Incretin means it helps the pancreas makes more insulin, which will keep the sugar down. So that's why we designed it. It's just by chance we thought, wait a second, these drugs are also helping losing weight. And then somebody discovered, wait a second, actually GLP-1 signals to the brain to cut satiety. What happens if we increase the dose of these a bit? If you go from 1 to 2.4, yes, we can start to get 10, 15% weight loss. Wow, let's design them as a weight loss drug and do the trials. And that's what happened. And the trials were done in people BMIs on average about, well above 30, 35, and 10 to 15% in most of those people is fine. What happened was the drugs were being designed as they were given in a certain form initially. Initially, lots of people get nausea and vomiting because as soon as you get these drugs, you have to start eating less. And for some people, that takes a bit longer. They have to adapt to eating less. Some people can do that really quickly. They don't get nausea and vomiting, fine. Others maybe because of the way they eat and the types of food they eat, they find that difficult. And it takes them a bit longer. And that means they're still eating beyond what their
brain's allowing them to eat.
What the brain's allowing them to eat, because partly the drug is stopping them to. Yes, exactly. This kind of slight, you've taken a new drug that says the body should eat this amount, but you're still eating too much. So they have to adapt a little bit, and they get a bit nausea and vomiting because they're eating too fast beyond the body's needs. The other thing the drugs do initially in the first year, not only do they suppress up in the brain, they also slow how fast the stomach empties.
Okay.
Which means that if you keep eating too much and your stomach's not emptying fast enough, you're going to get a bit of nausea and vomiting.
Right.
So that usually happens when you first start the drug or when you escalate the dose. Because it's not about going on the drug at one dose. You have to actually start low and escalate it over about a period of about 3 or 4 months to their maintenance dose.
So is it almost just like getting used to it, or is it?
Yes.
Let's say I was on Ozempic for 3 years, right? I needed, or is that uncanny? Like, can you not do that?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, but when you started it, you wouldn't have been on the dose that you're on it for the majority of those 3 years. You would have, say, you were starting, you're going up to 2.4, which is the high dose. You would have started at a much lower dose for a period of 4 weeks, then titrate it up again, and it might have taken you about 4 to 5 months to get to the stable dose that you want on.
All right. So, but once I'm at let's say 2.4 is the stable dose.
That's called Wegovy, yes.
So let's say I get to the 5 month stage and I'm on 2.4. The next year, will I have to up again because my body's used to it? It does not work like that.
No. What happens is how do I explain it? It's a bit like a thermostat. Okay, you're set at this amount. You're eating 3,000 calories before you've taken the drug. Your BMI is 35. As you take the drug, gradually it'll cut you down to, say, your body should be eating, initially it will take you right down, but it'll kind of float back up again. And as you stabilize in 2.4, it'll say that you're going to eat 2,000 calories a day. Yeah, and that's what you'll eat. And what that will mean is that you'll get to a new steady state of weight, and you'll not keep losing weight. The reason you get to a new steady state, because as you get lighter, you burn less calories.
Right, so you don't need as much.
You don't need as much.
Okay.
So eventually the two things plateau. They match each other, so you plateau in your weight. So that plateau usually takes about a year and a half. So you'll lose weight. You'll lose it fast initially, because you imagine you've cut a lot of calories and really fast. 1,000 calories less a day. Wow. You're losing lots of weight, and then as you become lighter and your basal metabolic rate gets lower, so you're burning less. You can see how the equation eventually means you start to stabilize in weight, and then you'll get to a weight. Say you were BMI 35 and you've lost 15 kilograms. You're now BMI 31. And that's where you're at. So you're feeling a lot healthier. But if you wanted to lose more weight, we either need to add another drug, which we don't yet currently have, or we need to switch you to something else.
I think what concerns me is young people, 20 to 25, taking Ozempic.
Yeah, absolutely.
It seems to me like a sticking plaster for the underlying issue. So like you're not breaking, we went over habits at the beginning. You're not changing I suppose you're forcing yourself to change some habits, but you still might. Right.
Okay. That's a brilliant question. So you've hit really the nub of the whole point. Okay. If it was easy for 90% of people in the environment that they live in to make those habits and make them sustainable, great. I think we can do better at helping people make changes, but the thing that we are not succeeding in at all is changing the environment, the food environment. There is now so many calories everywhere, and not only are the calories everywhere, they can be delivered to your bloody house.
You get a delivery.
Yeah. We've made it so easy to people to overconsume that it's feeding into this, their poor appetite signals. It's feeding in, and they can't resist. Willpower is not enough. My very erudite and clever colleague Professor Susan Jebb in Oxford, and Professor Paul Aviard wrote a beautiful paper. Willpower is not enough. It's not. And so for people who are overweight, say in their mid-20s, it's either that they've got very poor appetite signals, they've got these genetically, so that they can't cope with the environment as well as you and I can, or they live in a poorer area. and they don't have as much agency or the factors around lifestyle to be able to, they live in a food desert.
Yeah.
They've grown up with poor appetite signals. They're born shorter because people who are poorer are born shorter because their mother during pregnancy had less good health, not because of she wanted to, because she didn't have a good dietary habit or smoked more. There's all those things as well.
Yeah.
And early nutrition affects your growth and your muscle mass. So they're biologically at more risk to begin with. They're environmentally at more risk to begin with. And then if you add to that, they've got poor appetite signals. Well, how they, are you going to train that out of them? It's impossible.
But at the same point, like as soon as they stop Ozempic, then will they not fall straight back into it?
They do, yes. So here's the thing then. I completely agree with you. What do we want to do? We want to take the environment back to the 1980s.
Yeah.
We want a third of the number of cars, maybe a half. We want more bikes on the road. And we want the food industry to basically completely revolutionize and go back to what it was in the 1980s. And is that going to happen?
I doubt it. I highly, highly doubt it. There's too much money to be made. It's follow the money.
It's exactly that. It's money. It's capitalism. That's what it is.
If you guys enjoyed that clip, please do me a huge favor before you go and head over to our Into the Mind podcast official page where we have the raw, uncut Into the Mind podcast and hit that subscribe button. And the more subscribers we get, the more incredible guests we can get on the show. I really appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much. And I'll see you all real soon.